Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor. I'd like to ask the Secretary if she'll please call the roll now.
Senator Buck? Here. Senator Daly? Here. Senator Hammond? Here. Senator Lang? Here. Senator Pazina? Senator Scheibel? Here. Senator Stone? Here. Chair Spearman?
Here. So I'd like to welcome everyone who is here in Carson City and those who are joining us in Las Vegas and those who are joining us via the internet. Today we'll have a bill hearing on the agenda, and the first bill that we will hear, Assemblywoman Hadagi, we're going to have yours first. You were put on the hot seat. But let me go through a couple of basic rules. I'd like everybody, first of all, to please turn your phones off so that they don't go off during the meeting. I'd like to remind everyone that there are several different ways that you can participate. You can participate in person here in Carson City. Telephonically, you can write a comment, or you can share your opinion on the opinion poll on Nellis. Anyone wishing to testify in person should sign the roll at the table and leave a business card if you have one. Any exhibits for the committee should have been submitted by 8 o'clock on yesterday. When testifying, please, please, please turn your microphone on and project your voice. Get as close as you can to it so that people who are listening over the internet can hear you. And when you're finished testifying, please, please, please turn your microphone off. A reminder to all those who testify that pursuant to NRS 218E.085, it is unlawful for any person to knowingly misrepresent facts when testifying before a legislative committee. Any person who knowingly does so is guilty of a misdemeanor. In addition, both the chair and any member may request any testifier to submit documentation supporting their testimony. All committee-related information is available on Nellis, which is accessible from the legislature's website. And finally, please turn off your electronic devices. I can speak. Devices. Please, please, please. It fell forward. I think we jumped forward an hour. So make sure that in the new hour you got the message, please, please, please turn your devices off. So Assemblywoman Hadagi, let's get you first. Assembly Bill 165. The measure revises provisions related to vision insurance.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Assemblywoman Sandra Howdigi, and I represent Assembly District 41. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to go first so I can get back up to my committee as well. I'm happy to be here this morning in front of you to present Assembly Bill 165. Madam Chair, at the table with me are two groups who normally are not at the table together: insurance companies and trial lawyers. But this cleanup bill has brought them together for the benefit of Nevada's injured workers. Earlier this year, the Division of Industrial Relations issued a memo that due to the 2017 legislative change in Assembly Bill 458, there is now a missing statutory authority to grant them lump sum payment awards for injured workers in Nevada for injuries that result in under 30% whole person disability. So they were going to stop processing these claims. This bill will fix that and allow those injured workers to receive one lump sum payment for their award. Madam Chair, with your permission, I would like to turn it over to Herb Santos with the Nevada Justice Association, and then to Misty Grimmer with employers for further information and to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chair Spearman. For the record, my name is Herb Santos, Jr., and I'm here on behalf of the Nevada Justice Association. First, I'd like to thank you and the distinguished members of the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee for providing us with the opportunity to present AB 165. I'd also like to thank Assemblywoman Sandra Howdigi for bringing this necessary bill to fix an error that occurred during the 2017 legislative session in AB 458. What happened in 2017 was basically a drafting error on a last-minute amendment to the bill regarding an increase in the percentage amount that could be elected by an injured worker for their permanent partial disability benefit. Unfortunately, no one caught the error. Since 2017, insurers have offered the PPD benefit in a lump sum for all PPDs within 1 to 29%. Most injured workers in the state have made the election for the lump sum, and they have been paid and processed pursuant to the forms authored by the Division of Industrial Relations. In fact, the ability of an injured worker to receive a lump sum goes back to 1983. The only thing that has essentially changed over the years is the percentage that could be elected. This last December 2022, when a new election form was created to address changes made in the 2021 session, the error was realized. DIR quickly withdrew the forms for an election of any lump sum from 1 to 29% and began work on an emergency regulation. The emergency regulation was processed and signed by the previous administration. However, that emergency regulation self-terminates on April 4th, 2023. The current administration provided DIR with an exception to the current regulation freeze, and a temporary regulation is in the works. I would like to thank Administrator Victoria Carrion and DIR Counsel Chris Eccles for their diligent response to this important issue in getting a temporary fix. So we are here today to permanently fix the error. AB 165 will reinstate the status quo for PPD lump sum benefits that has been in place since 1983 in Nevada and allow lump sums for PPD awards from 1 to 29%. This bill is good for the injured workers, it's good for the insurers, and it's good for the employers. If there are any questions, concerns, or issues that you would like to ask me of, I'm ready and prepared to answer your questions. Thank you.
Ms. Grimmer?
Thank you, Chair Spearman and committee. Good morning. Misty Grimmer, for the record, representing Employers Insurance Company of Nevada. I don't need to repeat anything that Mr. Santos said about the history of the challenge. He's absolutely right that the insurers are supportive of this. It is a process we've all been using for a while. If you look back through the statutes, it's been state policy for decades. So we also appreciate the efforts of the DIR in putting in the temporary reg, and would appreciate the committee moving the bill along, because it is a little bit time sensitive. And it is a unicorn, so it's kind of exciting.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions? Okay, you have anybody else to present? Assemblywoman? No?
No, Chair, that was.
Okay. So now we will open it up for public testimony. Those in favor and support, please come to the table. If you're down south in Las Vegas, please come to the table. Anyone in support of Assembly Bill 165? Broadcast, do we have anyone on the phone?
Chair, at this time, your phone lines are open. Chair, at this time, your phone lines are open, but no one is on the phone.
Is there anyone here who is in opposition to Assembly Bill 165? Anyone here or down south? I'm sorry, anyone on the phone in opposition?
Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Anyone here in neutral down south? See someone coming to the table? Okay, testifying in neutral? Please begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Victoria Carrion for the record. I'm the administrator at the Division of Industrial Relations. Just to echo some of the testimony earlier today, we did discover this error and have worked to try to address it, at least on a temporary basis, while we were waiting for legislation to be introduced to address it. So we did the emergency regulation, which expires on April 4th. We also have a temporary regulation that is in process. So we had a workshop on February 27th. At that time, we had no comments. And we have an adoption hearing on March 31st as well. However, this legislation that you are hearing today would be the permanent solution, and we would withdraw the temporary regulation should this pass before April 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. BPS, anyone in neutral on the phones?
Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. So we'll close now public hearing. Assemblywoman, you have any closing comments? Okay, no closing comments. No questions from the committee? Okay. Seeing that this is an emergency piece of legislation and we want to make sure that workers are treated fairly, what I'd like to do now is I'll entertain a motion to do pass. Have a motion by Senator Lang and a second by Senator Daly. Any question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the ayes have it. Let the record show that the motion passes unanimously. And Senator Daly, Will you take it? Floor statement? Floor statement? Mhm, okay. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you so much. We'll now open the hearing on Senate Bill 134, sponsored by Senator Severs-Gansert. The measure revises provisions relating to vision insurance. Minority Leader, please begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Senator Heidi Severs-Gansert for the record. I represent Senate District 15 in Washoe County. And with me today, I have several optometrists. So Dr. Andy Boren is there, and Dr. Jonathan Mather here, and Dr. Quentin Spencer is in Las Vegas. So I appreciate their joining me today, and I also have Mike Hillerby to my right. So today we have Senate Bill 134 in front of us, which seeks to address the issue of insurers conditioning contracts with vision care providers based on the use and prescription of certain ophthalmic devices and materials. Again, it's about conditioning contracts. One of the main issues with this practice is that it creates a conflict of interest for the insurer. When an insurer has a financial interest in a particular ophthalmic device or material, it may incentivize providers to use those products even if another product may be more appropriate or cost-effective for the patient. This could result in patients receiving suboptimal care and incurring higher costs, as well as providers may feel pressured to prioritize the financial interests of the insurer over the best practices for the patient, the best interest for the patient. So I want to go through the sections of the bill quickly. It's very short, as you can see. Currently, NRS 686A-135 prohibits an insurer from entering a contract with a provider of vision care that conditions the the provider's rate of reimbursement for vision care and prescribing ophthalmic devices or materials in which the insurer has an ownership or other pecuniary interest. Further, the insurer is prohibited from increasing the rate of reimbursement if the provider of vision care prescribes such ophthalmic devices or materials. Senate Bill 134 expands on those prohibitions. Specifically, Section 1 adds that an insurer is further prohibited from entering into a contract with provider of vision care that authorizes the insurer to set or limit the amount that the provider of vision care may charge for vision care that is not reimbursed under the contract. So to give you an example of that, if an insurer is going to cover a first pair of glasses, they can't require that a second pair be discounted at 50% if they're not going to cover that. If that's not under covered services, they would not be able to say you can only charge this much or you must provide a discount for something, again, that's not in the contract before the insurer and the provider. Second, it requires the provider it's prohibited to require the provider to use a specific laboratory as a manufacturer of ophthalmic devices or materials provided to covered persons. So that would make sure that they couldn't require that you use a certain lab, a particular lab, when you have your devices made. Lastly, the prohibitions in Section 1 are not applicable to any current contracts between an insurer and a provider of vision care according to Section 2 unless and until those contracts are renewed after October 1st of 2023. This concludes my remarks, but I've got Mike Hillerby again with me and several optometrists to speak to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Hillerby on behalf of the Nevada Optometric Association. Give a little background and thank first Senator Gansert and the other co-sponsors of the bill for helping bring this forward, and she did a very nice job of explaining what we're trying to do. First, by way of background, vision and dental plans are not health insurance. They are sold alongside health insurance, but they operate very differently. You are essentially paying for a specific set of benefits that are provided with vision plans. That is the exam, some portion of the cost of the exam, and some discount and portion of the cost for frames and lenses or contact lenses. Hopefully most of you are regularly seeing an optometrist, a doctor of optometry, or an ophthalmologist for your own vision health. Hopefully you're covered by a vision plan. I want to also be very clear, these vision plans are very important. They help people have access, they increase access, and make sure people get the services and the products that they need. But they can't exist without some level of regulation. As Senator Gansert mentioned, the existing law is in the bill in front of you that we were able to pass last time, some very modest protections. Nevada doesn't regulate vision plans within its own chapter the way we do dental plans. We've regulated dental plans since 1983. You'd find that in NRS 695D. This language that is in this proposed in this bill and in existing law is in NRS 686A, which generally regulates trade practices and frauds within the insurance statutes. Senator Gansert again did a nice job of explaining in Section 1, subsection 1A, two things we want to prohibit from these plans. One is setting prices for things that they don't cover. So that's as simple as it sounds. If you want to provide some level of reimbursement to the patient and to the provider, then negotiate what those prices are. If you're not going to do that, you shouldn't be in the business of setting prices for services and products. Second is you cannot require the use of a specific lab, and I'll get to a little bit why this has become so problematic, particularly with the largest plan out there owning its own lab. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. The other issue with this is because we've seen so much vertical integration, and to give you a sense of the scope of that, there are approximately 200 million Americans with vision plan coverage of some sort. 2/3 of them are covered by one of two companies. Those companies are highly vertically integrated. They own the manufacturing of lenses and frames. They own many of the major retailers you would see advertising online or at a local shopping mall or a large box store. And in some cases, they even own the labs and are increasingly even buying practices, buying doctors' practices as well. Nevada banned the price setting of non-covered services in the dental statutes in 2013. That's NRS 695D 227. And what's really important about this, and what you'll hear from my friends, colleagues and friends on the other side who are going to testify against the bill, is that this really opens the door for prices to go up for consumers. That assumes a couple of things. Assumes that our doctors of optometry and an ophthalmologist have some interest in potentially gouging a consumer for that second pair of glasses is the easiest example, or that there's not enough competition. The Avalon Health Economics Group has done a study. In fact, they've done it twice, once in 2016 and updated that last year, covering 10 states, and has shown, in fact, and I'll provide a copy of the study to the committee after the hearing, that it, in fact, does not raise prices when you get rid of the non-covered services mandate. 75% of respondents showed that prices stayed the same or actually went down in the absence of that. And again, that's really important. Our doctors work with their local communities and their patients in an effort to find things that work for them. There is so much competition, and so much of the business now is online, from Warby Parker in major retailers like LensCrafters or Costco or Walmart or Target Optical. It makes no sense, and in fact, it is just ultimately not possible for your local doctor to raise prices to the point to take advantage of a patient. Under federal law, we're required to hand you your prescription. You can go anywhere to do that, and an increasingly large number of patients do. Again, there's a lot of advertising and a lot of resources behind those major companies. So it's in fact in the best interest of our members and the patients they serve to find the best kinds of pricing. I'm going to let Dr. Mather talk just a little bit about what they do in their practice, and I think we'll put sort of a human face on this.
Hello, committee. Sorry, I usually don't get nervous speaking in public. I get to talk to somebody 3 feet away from me. My name is Dr. Jonathan Mather. I'm an optometrist. I've been living and working here in Carson City since I graduated 10 years ago. So what I want to share with you is a patient that we ran into that kind of ran into these exact same issues that we're trying to address today. So last week in our office, we saw a patient named Christy. She came in for her yearly checkup, and we found two unique problems. One is common, blurry vision, but the other one is diplopia, also known as double vision. As you can imagine, that can cause quite a headache. Luckily, by just adjusting her prescription, we were able to solve both issues. She was seeing single and clear. Unfortunately, after seeing the patient and getting the prescription dialed in, we went to pick out new frames and lenses and started to run into problems. The patient's insurance company, like many others, owns a laboratory that creates the lenses that go into the glasses from blank pieces of plastic. The alert in our system said that they would be unable to fill her prescription. So of course we called the laboratory to see what the problem was. Well, with the amount of prism that she needed to keep her from seeing double, they could not do it in the type of progressive edition lens that helps her to read and see far away at the same time. So she had to move to a lower quality progressive lens. As any of you know that wear a progressive, you got to move your head a little bit side to side once you start reading. And the lower quality and the older technology means a lot more head movements and hopefully a lot more visits to your chiropractor. Not. The other issue we ran into was that the anti-reflective coating that you put on the glasses, it provides a scratch warranty, it provides higher quality optics, especially with nighttime driving and driving in the rain and snow, as we've seen a bit too much lately. And with this lower quality material and lower quality plastic, they would not be able to give her the same anti-glare coating that we'd given her in the past. So her lenses would scratch easier, they'd have more distortion, maybe even have some double vision and worse optics. None of these were things that we wanted for the patient. The patient had already been taken care of at our practice before and got exactly what she needed and had no problems. She just came in for her yearly checkup and wanted new glasses so she could see sharper. We did everything we could to help her, but the problem was the contract that we had with the insurance said we have to use their laboratory, which means you have to use their products, you have to use their prices, you have to give the patient the copays that they stipulate. None of those things were good for the patient. So we're left with two possibilities. Either we give the patient what's covered, have them pay their copay, and then act as a great customer service representative in 2 weeks when they come back and have all the problems that we knew they were going to have, or we're forced to write off a huge amount of product at a loss so the patient can have what they need, so they can see clearly, so they don't have to move their head 2 feet side to side just to read across their book, and so they can have a good quality lens. This points out one of the issues that we run into over and over. By being forced to use the laboratories that we contract with the insurance to use, we give our patients lower quality products and lower quality services. As you know, doctors are here to take care of people. And that's the reason that I got into this practice, because I care for my patients and I care for what they need. And all the years of schooling and the years of practice that I've had show me how to do that. But some anti-competitive marketing and anti-competitive insurance practices have kept me from doing that properly. In the last year, I moved into private practice from retail, and I've seen this going on more and more and more. And the more that I learn about the business, the more heartbroken that I am that I have to tell patients that they can't get what they need. And it's very, very unfortunate. So thank you for hearing my testimony. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Boren. He's going to talk about the problems we have with non-covered services. Oh, before I do that, one other thing. I was told to mention as well that for state employees and anybody here that needs an eye exam, please come see me. We also offer 25% discount for all state employees. That includes people that work in the school district, for senators and assembly people. That's the end of my marketing. Thank you.
I'm Andy Boren. I'm an optometrist. My practice has been in Reno for 24 years now. And thank you for considering this, and thank you to Senator Ganser, Michael, and Dr. Mathers for representing this better than I'm going to be able to. But the non-covered services, what I see as the issue is that the great majority of our patients are covered by the vision plans, but not everybody. And when we're mandated to give this very large discount on materials that aren't covered, it actually forces us to price materials high enough so that we're not losing too much money on those, and it makes a higher price for the non-covered patient. For cash patients, we have to price everything the same. We can't give a different price for people who are covered and people who aren't, so it makes the prices higher for people who are not covered. And the decrease in the competitive nature of business when it mandates prices for both covered people, but as a result, for people who don't have insurance, we have to have that same price. And these companies are big enough that we can't really bargain with them also, because they've been very successful at what they do. They've grown, as Michael was saying, they're vertically integrated in a way where they own labs, they own frame companies that they want us to use, and now they own optometry practices that are direct competitors to us and that they market to also when their patients who have, our patients that we see have their insurance, and they will market to our patients to go to their own facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Michael Hillerby. Just give a little bit of information on the lab choice piece, and then introduce Dr. Quinton in Las Vegas to testify as well, and then we'll wrap up because I know the committee has other business. The Lab choice, for those of you that have sat through a lot of insurance and mandated benefit hearings over the years, know that one of the key pieces within the health insurance world is you exchange volume for lower pricing. The argument is when, particularly for the companies that own a lab or contract with a specific lab, in exchange for the volume they're getting from our eye doctors, our optometrists and ophthalmologists, you're going to get better pricing. That is theoretically possible if you have an arm's length transaction. When the company that owns the plan, owns the manufacturing, also owns the lab, there is no transparency there at all. So we don't know that that happens, and in fact have some evidence that it does not. Again, based on that Avalon Health Economics study, what we found out in looking at results from 10 states, you saw longer wait times and lower quality. Practices reported wait times dropped from 15 days to 7 days when they had lab choice and went to an independent lab on average. 58% reported higher or significantly higher quality, and on an average lab order of $231 for lenses, the price increase was $9 by going to an independent lab. Some of our doctors, and Dr. Quinton may be able to address this as well, actually see significantly lower prices. So that ought to be an option that's available to doctors and their patients. And again, we think the plans are very, very important. These are some modest protections to go along with what we were able to do last time that we think makes some sense. And again, there's plenty of data to back this up. You don't see increases or gouging of customers. You don't see a lack of affordability and availability of the plans when we do this. I'd like Dr. Quinton go ahead and offer some testimony, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Good morning, Senator Spearman and members of the committee. I'm Spencer Quinton. I'm an optometrist in Southern Nevada here in Henderson, practicing nearly 24 years. I'm the current president of the Nevada Optometric Association, and I'm also supportive of SB 134. We're calling it the Nevada Eyewear and Eye Care Consumer Protection Bill. It will curb the anti-patient, anti-doctor mandates that the vision care plans have been using for years to increase their profits in this vertically integrated business model, as has been discussed, at the cost of higher overall prices and reduced access for our patients. I would like to speak more to the lab choice portion of it and how this affects us in real life. I see patients on a weekly, even I would say a daily basis, patients like the bus driver, the student, construction worker, professional in an office, anyone you can imagine who needs their glasses in order to drive, to work, to learn, to do anything. Everything we do, almost everything requires good vision. And when an individual that requires vision correction loses or breaks glasses or simply has a change in their vision that requires a new pair of glasses, these plans nearly always require that the materials are purchased from a lab that is owned by the vision plan. This often means longer wait times, often inferior quality, and a requirement often for patients to be without their glasses if they're just simply replacing their lenses. Often they have to send them off for a week or two at a time, and if they come back incorrect, they're gone for another week or two. And we have no ability other than having a patient pay out of pocket often, which is a luxury many people cannot afford. And these are people who have earned these, they paid for these benefits, and whether they can afford them or not, they should be able to use their benefits. I really feel for the people that I see on a regular basis who cannot afford and to pay out of pocket, and they either simply go without and suffer with blurry vision. And you do not want these people driving or in a classroom, obviously, or working in a manufacturing facility or anything important. But they often either go by without, or if they can, or they make a sacrifice somewhere else to make the payment out of pocket to get this taken care of. SB 134 will allow patients to use their benefits at any lab, at their choice of lab. And they'll be able to see things more clearly faster and without increased out-of-pocket expenses. And so I urge support of SB 134, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Hillerby. We'll wrap up and then be happy to take any questions. Just want to reiterate again, these vision plans are very, very important. They're good for patients. They're good for our doctors. They exist for a reason. These changes that we're talking about are modest. The non-covered services language, again, exists in 22 states and lab choice in 15 states currently. Those plans are able to market themselves effectively and competitively, and we think that's very important. Again, we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions? Yeah. Senator Scheibel?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify how it's even possible that the requirements extend for the insurance companies beyond what they cover to, like, the example that Senator Sievers-Ganser gave. They are going to cover the first pair of glasses and then require you to offer the second pair of glasses at a 50% discount. Is that because the terms of the contract say, if you don't agree to this, then we won't partner with you as a covered provider?
Thank you. Michael Hillerby. Senator, that's an excellent question, and the short answer is yes. It's a mandatory provision of the contract, and again, when you've got two companies controlling 2/3 of the market, there's not much negotiating power for your independent doctor of optometry.
And so the alternative would be to continue to operate your freestanding or independent practice and just not accept vision insurance. Am I understanding that correct?
That's true, and oh, I'm Dr. Boren, Andy Boren, and that is true. And for me, the conflict is bigger than just losing patients. It's that I'm a part of the community, and I've been seeing people, and I'm seeing the kids of people I used to see, and I'm seeing, and to not be able to see people, not to be able to accept patients is kind of a bigger deal than to not have that business in some cases. We want to be able to serve the people in our community.
Thank you.
Additional questions? So I just have a couple from my understanding. This sounds a little bit, a lot, like something I heard about, I guess a couple of years ago. There were a couple of big box pharmaceuticals that did some vertical integration, and the insurance companies owned a particular pharmacy that then you had to go there. So that was no choice. So is this kind of like that? I'm just trying to understand.
Senator Michael Hillerby, thank you very much for the question. It very much is. Again, you've got companies that control sort of every piece of the market in the optometric and eye health world. From, again, the one, EssilorLuxottica owns iMed, which is the largest health plan. They're also the largest manufacturer of frames and lenses in the world. They own their own labs, and I believe they may be the largest retailer in the world, or one of the largest. They own LensCrafters, Target Optical, other brands, and other retailers around the world. They were last year a $26 billion company in total revenue. So that's who we're negotiating with, Dr. Boren, Dr. Mather, Dr. Quinton, and their small practices. So that sort of anti-competitive behavior is exactly what we're seeing that is ultimately bad for patients. Again, what these plans provide is very, very important, and what we're asking is for some modest regulation of those to be sure that patients are protected.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Mather here again. So the reason this is a problem is starting in 2015, EssilorLuxottica bought the iMed insurance company. And so as they vertically integrated over the last 5 to 7 years, they've realized that they can line their pockets twice by charging patients premiums and by charging patients every time they buy glasses. And that's why it's become a problem, and it's just getting worse. So unless there's some kind of protection in place, it's going to continue until the point where we have no options other than give the patients nothing, or give the patients mediocre quality. So yes, that's exactly, your example was right on.
Thank you. So the next question, I heard someone, I can't remember who, I think it might have been you, Mr. Hillary, that mentioned that part of the argument against this is that prices would go up. And so if I follow that to a, quote, logical conclusion, then the people who control the pricing would be the ones to say, no, we're not going to increase the prices, not the small folks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Hillerby. That's where the marketing and the vertical integration of these companies make this so interesting to figure out. Absolutely, your local ophthalmologist or optometrist has some control of the pricing that they ultimately would charge you for that second pair of glasses or a prescription sunglass or some other service that wasn't covered by the insurance. Again, however, it is not in their best interest to do that in a way that gouges patients. You're going to lose that patient because there is so much competition out there. But the other piece is, and I think all three of the doctors this morning have addressed that, because of the lack of transparency and because you have plans, the same companies owning the manufacturing, owning the labs, owning the plans, they have an ability to set prices and determine what those things, how much they're going to sell them to the individual doctor in their office if they still have an optical shop. They're able to set those prices, and we can't see into that. So the profit margins are quite slim with what you can do to try to be competitive, particularly against those large retailers. So both sides of that have obviously an ability to set prices. These doctors have an ability to set those prices, but so much of what they buy is controlled by those same companies. It makes it much more complicated.
Which is, I guess, the better way to ask the question would be make a statement, and that is the people who control 2/3 of the market would be the ones to say prices will go up or won't go up.
Thank you, Senator Michael Hillerby. They certainly have a lot of leverage.
Additional questions? Senator Stone?
Thank you for the presentation, and I see a lot of parallels in the pharmacy industry where you have 3 PBMs that are controlling basically most of the prescription traffic, and they send all their business to mail order pharmacies, and what you see is the erasement, if you will, of independent practitioners. And I like going to an independent pharmacy. I was the owner of many of them. I like going to an independent optometrist because I get the personalized service. Not that you don't get some personalized service at some of the bigger box places, but they do have a turnaround system. But it sounds like to me you're dealing with some monopoly interests that are really governing what you can do in the way of a contract, and then I think it's very disturbing that they tell you what you can provide in the way of non-covered insurance coverage. You should be able to sell glasses on the market and try to boost some profit for yourself. At the same time, you still have to compete with the Costco's and the Walmarts and everybody else in the world. So to say that this is going to increase costs for a savvy business person, I think is not real. And I mean, people by federal law, as you mentioned, you can ask for a prescription and you get a prescription. But I found as an independent practitioner, and I'm sure I'd like you to opine the same, is that you provide personalized services that the other can't. You provide certain lenses that the factory lens manufacturers can't provide. So if you can elaborate on that a little bit about why you think you're unique. And one last question. I hope that there's nothing in your contracts with these providers that control such a large share of the market that don't allow you to bravely speak out the way you're speaking out now. And I hope that there is no retaliatory efforts to quiet you down by saying, we control a lot of your traffic and we're just going to cancel your contract because you're speaking poorly about us.
Andrew Bourne, optometrist, Reno, Nevada. Thank you for the question, Senator Stone. And that is correct, that I have the entire menu of materials from anywhere. I found myself at times on the phone with a doctor in Vermont who invented a certain process for making specialty contact lenses to fix eye diseases. And, and I enjoy being able to provide things that are hard to find. I have our practice does have a lot of severely developmentally disabled patients, and they have a lot of special needs that are hard, that can't sometimes be filled just off the normal menu. Yeah, thank you.
As a follow-up, over the years we've seen the scope of what you're allowed to do as an optometrist significantly increase. You can treat certain eye diseases that are not related to their vision. I would assume that some of these assembly line, big box optometry departments, they want you to come in and get the lenses, they want you to get the frames, but they're not going to get into more of the specialty services that, you can catch some things like a retinal detachment and make sure somebody gets the appropriate treatment where they might be missing in a big box is just looking for vision issues. Is that correct?
Yeah, Andrew Bourne, thank you for that question. And that is correct. I'd like to elaborate on that. I don't want to malign anybody, but that's what my colleagues who work in those settings tell me. Yeah.
Thank you. If I may, Senator Michael Hillerby, just to be clear, Senator Stone, Nevada law, like in other states, makes sure that those practices are independent. So you want to see that that doctor is able to exercise independent judgment. So that's a very important part. I don't represent the State Board of Optometry, but were they here, they would tell you that same thing. But again, you do know who your employer is and where you're working. But again, our doctors pride themselves on following that law and being independent and are committed to that patient care.
Yes, Senator Stone?
Yes, and to the optometrist on the right, did you graduate from high school when you were 10 years old?
2005, but these rosy cheeks run in my family, and none of my grandparents have gray hair until 60.
So I guess, so the specialized service that you all offer, and Dr. Boyne, I'll go to what you said, you treat the children, and you almost said grandchildren of some of your patients. So knowing that there are some diseases that run in families, such as diabetes, so if you're talking about specialized care, that would be something that if you're with an optometrist for a long period of time, that they would obviously try to look at or know. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to differentiate between someone who is in the community and someone who said they talked to somebody in Utah. You know, I'm not. I mean, Utah's great, but I'm just saying. You know.
No, that's very true. And in all kinds of healthcare, that continuity of care is important. An example, I think it was 3 weeks ago, I saw a mother who I first saw as a 12-year-old child, and she was bringing in her own 6-year-old daughter and her 7-month-old child in her arms. And this is someone who's profoundly nearsighted. So I don't know how to describe that in a way, but she's a minus 15. So she can see clearly up to about here without some specialty contact lenses. And she brought her daughter in, and it turned out her daughter is also profoundly nearsighted at this age, and at this point has some neurological vision loss that she's young enough that with therapy, she can probably get 20/20 vision eventually. And so it was helpful to see that and profoundly rewarding. I'm not usually out where glasses are being dispensed, but I happened to be in on a Saturday, and to see this little girl get her first pair of glasses and be able to see was exciting. But also that 7-month-old baby, you know, we made an appointment for that baby, and I'll see that child within the next few weeks. And if we can catch this before their first birthday, their chances of having 20/20 vision ultimately will be much greater. So yeah, that happens all the time.
Okay. This will be my last question. This is for you, Mr. Hillerby. You mentioned an amount, a profit amount, I think it was $26 billion.
Thank you, Senator Michael Hillerby. That was total revenue.
Total revenue.
For that largest company.
Okay, so
And that's not just the Vision Plan. The Vision Plan is owned by that company, but that's the manufacturing of, again, lenses and frames, labs, the retailers that they own.
okay, this may or may not have something to do with it, but do you know what the average salary is or wages for the low people in that? So you have people here who are making, you know, this much, and I don't listen. Anybody that can make that much money, you know, cool. But then you have other people who are at the bottom holding the top up. So do you know what the average salary is for them?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Hillerby. I do not.
Thank you. So we'll open it up now for public comment. Those who are in support of Senate Bill 134, either here or in the South, you know, I think they'll need those chairs.
Okay, I'm in support of the bill. My name is, I'd like to make a comment. Am I okay now to talk?
Yes, your name, please?
Okay, my name is Al Rojas. I live in Assembly District 12, Senate District 21 here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm 63 years old and I suffered a retinal detachment. We're all going to be vulnerable to retinal detachments because as you age, I'm not an optometrist, but I did the research. Your eye turns into water. It's like a gel when you're young. And the fact that people are on cell phones all the time and computers, we're all prone to that. And eye care, just retinal detachments from what I know, and I'm just a layperson, it's going to increase like by about 1,000%. A lot of these kids that are on smartphones, their eyes, they're going to need glasses right off the bat. Not only should we be making it so that a person who does not have insurance is easier to get glasses. I've never had insurance. I've always had to pay cash. Okay. The thing is that there also should be, make it easier for some of these young kids to have reading glasses so their eyes are not strained and their eyes don't develop improperly. This is a huge problem. I almost lost the vision in my right eye. Okay. Because I woke up one day and my eye looked like a cherry 7-Up with everything ripped up inside, and the eye literally blew up. I've read stories of adults that are watching the computer, working on their computer. The next day they wake up, they can't see. These are true things, and I think any of these optometrists will confirm what I'm saying. So the fact that we have to increase competition, we have to make it easier for people to buy glasses and get glasses, because glasses, just about everyone's going to need glasses now with these smartphones. And that's how I ruined my eyes. When I was a kid, I used to watch TV, and I used to look at the dots on the TV. And people would tell me, you're going to ruin your eyes. I didn't know what they were talking about. I thought with my eyes, I was going to blow them up. I go, you guys are crazy. That's how I developed nearsightedness. So not only that, and there's another issue that I wanted to make. I came from California. Here I'm 6 years. And now prescriptions there last 2 years. Here they only last 1 year. And it's good that you see your eyes, you check your eyes regularly when your vision has changed. But I think they should also extend it that your prescription should last you 2 years instead of 1 year, and maybe the bill might accommodate that too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll come back up here to Carson City.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Dylan Keith, Keith, with the Vegas Chamber. We are in support of SB 134. We believe that it will provide greater access to care and also give more flexibility to providers as they're trying to do their jobs. So for that reason, we think it's a step in the right direction, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here in support? Down south? Broadcast, anyone on the phones?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 134, please press *9 to now take your place in the queue.
Caller with the last three digits of 181. You are unmuted. Please continue.
Yes. Thank you. Karen Jenkins, Executive Director of the Nevada State Board of Optometry, testifying in the neutral regarding Senate Bill 134. We are the agency tasked with regulating optometrists, and while this measure mostly does not affect Chapter 636 of NRS, it does affect optometrists. The board takes no position with regard to the bill, but I heard testimony earlier in the hearing from Mr. Hillerby, which was absolutely correct, that in 2019 we strengthened Chapter 636 regulating optometrists to ensure that optometrists do not work for or are not employed by anyone but an optometrist, so as to ensure the independent judgment of those healthcare professionals. If an optometrist were to be employed by a big box retailer who's in the business of selling glasses, then the emphasis becomes profits rather than patient care. And that was unacceptable to the legislature in 2019 and to optometrists generally. The reason this measure may affect that is that the board has received a marked increase in the number of complaints it's received regarding the quality of eyeglasses that are provided by optometrists, and in the large part, those optometrists are part of this vision insurance program. The complaints have ranged from it takes way too long to get my glasses, and when I get them, the prescription is not accurate, to my doctor's trying to rip me off. The patients who are complaining have no sense of why it is that their glasses need to be sent to labs that take from 2 to 3 weeks to get the glasses back, nor do they have an awareness of the quality issues that sometimes come from those labs. Whereas the optometrists themselves would prefer to use an independent lab whose turnaround time is much less and whose quality or accuracy is much higher. The problem with the insurance-owned labs that has been complained about is that when they then send the glasses back to be remade because they're not accurate prescriptions, it takes another 2 to 3 weeks. So a patient might be without a correct prescription for up to 6 weeks.
Excuse me, ma'am.
From their
Hello, ma'am.
appointment.
Ma'am, thank you so much. Yeah, you're over the 2 minutes. If you can submit your entire testimony in writing, certainly would appreciate that.
Certainly. I just want to say that the Optometrist Board is available as a resource to the committee. If you have questions, we've submitted our telephone number in the written comment.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are not in neutral yet, but anybody else in support? Anyone here in opposition? Anyone down south as well? Okay. Begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair Spearman, Vice Chair Lang, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Michael Alonso, and I'm here submitting comments on behalf of the National Association of Vision Care Plans in opposition to SB 134. Just some background, 8 of our member plans form a diverse market in Nevada and work with Nevada employers to provide vision care benefits to over 2.3 million people. Our member plans reflect different business models, offering different benefits to enrollees and different business policies to providers. We believe there are 484 Nevada vision care providers that participate in vision care plans and on average choose to contract with more than 3 of our member plans at the same time. NAVCP believes that SB 134 would increase patient costs by limiting the ability of vision care plans to negotiate prices of services and materials on behalf of the patient. Specifically, the bill would make it illegal for vision care plans to negotiate prices for services and materials that are paid for out of pocket by patients. In some instances, markups on eyewear and other vision care materials can be as high as 400% over wholesale costs. Discounts negotiated by vision care plans help cut those markups, resulting in a direct cost savings to the patient. In addition to providing plans at differing price points and coverage levels, vision plans make sure the patient receives consistent treatment from all providers. It is important for vision plans to be able to negotiate and verify what discounts and pricing a patient will receive across the plan's network. This is particularly true for vision care practitioners who self-refer their patients to the products available through their own practice. SB 134 would limit our plan's ability to market different options to consumers in Nevada and pushes all consumers towards higher cost alternatives. And in conclusion, and we're happy to work with the bill sponsor and the proponents to try to come up with something, but for now we're opposed to SB 134 as written. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Chelsea Capurro here on behalf of the Health Services Coalition. The Health Services Coalition is a group of 25 union and employer self-funded health trusts. Some of our members include Boyd, Caesars, Clark County, Culinary, Teamsters, and many others. It's around 280,000 in the state. We have concerns about SB 134 regarding surprise cost to patients. The provisions in this bill were part of a bill, AB 436, in the 2021 session, and we objected then as well. And just a little note on that, there were 5 things, I think, in that bill, and we agreed to 3 of them, worked out amendments, and these were the 2 things that we were opposed to in 2021 as well. Our concerns are based on our desire to protect our patients from unknown prices and to limit escalating prices. Plans may negotiate with vision plans to ensure our members can affordably get glasses and other vision benefits for themselves and their family members without price gouging. Services, in addition to these critical benefits for related services, are services that patients may not need, but an optometrist wants to provide. Patients are not always able to determine what is and is not covered or what is and is not needed. Patients who do not go to a contracted provider will have these costs, but the expectation of going to a contracted network provider is that patients will pay their expected copays and not be charged unexpected prices. That is a key reason our plans support having a network. Vision providers are not required to contract with a plan, and plans establish contracts with vision groups to ensure patients do not have unexpected or confusing bills. We want our contracted providers to help protect our patients, not price gouge them, which is why we try to negotiate discounts on non-covered services. We cannot support sending our patients to a contracted doctor that then charges unknown and unexpected prices for services not in the contract. This bill would prevent our vision plans from negotiating those discounts and protecting our members from high costs. Lastly, a critical way we ensure vision cost savings for our members is using contracted labs. Those savings are passed to our members through lower premiums and out-of-pocket costs. There may be other ways to address the concerns raised in this bill, and we are happy to work with the committee and sponsor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, for the record, Carlos Hernandez, representing the Nevada State AFL-CIO. We are in opposition to Senate Bill 134, and we ditto the comments made by Ms. Capurro. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here in opposition? Down south? BPS, anyone on the phone? We're in opposition now. Anyone on the phone in opposition?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 134, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. All right, Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Anyone neutral? Anyone neutral here or down south? Anyone on the phone lines? Neutral?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Senator Severs-Gansert, you want to come up? And I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so usually in plans with related to insurance, ERISA is usually not considered part of that. It's outside that. So does this include ERISA plans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Hillerby on behalf of the Nevada Optometric Association. It does not, but one of the lessons we learned last time, and I was negligent in not thanking Ms. Capurro and her client over the interim. We did meet and have a number of conversations. We're ultimately not able to reach a satisfactory conclusion, but they were great about doing that. One of the things we learned with this bill last time and since, because the plans are so big, they don't operate differently, whether they're in an ERISA plan or a traditional state-regulated plan. Because they're so big, they offer both these employer groups and union groups and others, here's the plan we have available for you. The same way, and when we talked about quote-unquote negotiating the prices on the non-covered services and materials, they are so big and have such market share, what we hear from our members is you don't negotiate that. You're given a contract and you either sign it or you don't. So I think that part is really important. These are not individually negotiated with practices, at least what we hear from our members about how much that discount is. It's simply part of taking that contract because they're so large. So that's a really important piece, and it was a learning opportunity for us to know that those plans don't tend to operate differently, whether they're in the ERISA market or the state market. They're offering the same vision network and the same kinds of benefits and pricing regardless.
So if this were theoretically to pass, would it be any different then than it is now for ERISA plans? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Thank you, Senator Michael Hillerby. I think that's a question best asked of the plans. It would not be appropriate for me to answer that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee for considering this bill. And I can tell you, I'm the mother of four, and we've been going to the same optometrist forever, and it's really helpful to have someone that you can count on. And we're also looking, as was mentioned, this is a highly competitive market, and the private practitioners have to contract with these large insurers because they dominate the market. So I don't think this is going to affect them negatively. I think that the market is competitive, and I appreciate the relationships that you can have with your private optometrist. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 1. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Daly, I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
Sorry about that, Madam Chair.
We'll open the hearing back up.
Well, technically, I don't know if we ever got all the words out. So just to comment on the ERISA question, still serve as a trustee on ERISA plans and various things. And the plans under ERISA are regulated by the federal government under federal law. So any provision in state law that mandates certain coverages is exempted by ERISA. So if an ERISA plan entered into an agreement that was in violation of this provision, and somebody comes and said, hey, you can't do that, Mr. ERISA plan, the federal government preempts that. So they can't dictate to an ERISA plan what the plan design is, how the coverage is done, what the negotiating the agreements, et cetera. Now, Mr. Hillerby is correct. Most often we are not trying to be outside what's the normal processes are in the industry, and there are things that are covered by ERISA plans that are mandated by the state, but we do that to try to make sure our members or the people that we're representing have that coverage and various things. If I can follow up with the different question, and I see this as a competition type thing. I think all throughout state law, federal, state, various things, and over the history of time, whenever there's somebody that dominates the marketplace in such a fashion that they control what everybody else does, or they can do things not because it's just and fair, just because they can, the state, federal government comes in, regulates that, monopolies and the rest of it. And if I remember my economics correctly, if you don't have any competition, you will set prices where supply meets demand. So you won't set the price so high that nobody buys it because they can't afford it, and you won't set the prices lower. You'll set the price where supply crosses demand to maximize your profit. That's what this is, and this is what these companies are attempting to do. And without some state regulation on this, and without some of these protections, I think the next time a contract's handed to these guys, if the status quo remains, they would just say, well, we're not going to contract with you. We're going to cut you out at 2/3 of the marketplace, hope you survive, and if you don't, that was our plan in the first place. And if I also remember my economics class, competition is a good thing. Competition will adjust those prices down, and any arguments on the other side that I've heard so far about prices going up is speculation. And it goes against the economic standards that everybody recognizes that competition helps, and people will price at the place where market or supply meets demand if they're not checked to maximize their profit. That's what will happen. That's what's happening now, and why we're trying to adjust it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from committee members? Okay. And now for real, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 134. And we'll, just before I go to public comment, I just wanted to say that some of you may have noticed a glitch in the agenda for Wednesday, and the agenda leaves out certain parts of what the format will be. Please know if you're here or if you're listening on the internet or wherever, that is a glitch that was somehow created or oversight when they did the remix of the boilerplate. We're working on the agenda now, on the boilerplate now, so that piece for comment will be back in there. So hold on to your horses. It was not intentional. It was an oversight. So with that, let's go to public comment. Anyone here in Carson City or in Las Vegas or on the phone? And remember that public comment does not relitigate any of the bills that we've heard previously. It is something separate and apart from anything that we've covered today. So
Madam Chair?
anyone? Yes,
Just, I don't know, did you close the hearing this time?
we did.
Okay.
For real, we closed it. Yeah. Don't see anyone here. Anyone in Las Vegas? Don't see anyone there. BPS, anyone on the phone?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Okay. Thank you. And so with that, any members, any comments? Okay, just got an update on my previous announcement. So the agenda has been updated, and if you're looking at it online, the information is right at the bottom with the telephone call and how you operate that if you're doing on the internet. So please go to the website, and the agenda has been updated. Comments from committee members? No? Okey doke, and with that, we will adjourn this edition of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor. We'll be right back at 8 o'clock on this Wednesday. We're adjourned.